Welcome to 99th Monkey Liberty News for Thursday, March 27th, 2014. As I was getting up this morning, getting around, I was thinking about enthusiasm and what a drag life is if you don't have any enthusiasm. And an idea that goes along with that, a biblical idea, is the joy of the Lord is our strength. And if we're always sad, always burdened, always carrying some heavy thoughts, it drags us down. It weighs us down. But I was actually wondering why there is a lack of enthusiasm, sometimes why I personally feel a lack of enthusiasm. And it's hard to deny that there are people who realize that joy brings strength to people, and enthusiasm lends momentum, and they intentionally weigh us down. And this is one of the ways. From Natural News: Americans' brains being fried by cell towers. New scientific evidence reveals shocking extent of electropollution damage. And the Natural News article begins: exposure to cell phone towers alters brain function in alarming ways, causing a lack of concentration, irritability, difficulty sleeping, and a lack of appetite. And this means, you know, your thinking is altered. Your ability to cope is altered. Your ability to process is altered. And I do believe that, along with, of course, the overwhelming information that we are bombarded with, this is certainly something that contributes to maybe a lack of joy, a lack of enthusiasm. And just in response to that, if you need encouragement, I have not watched this yet, but it's from Lyndon LaRouche, Alpac Weekly Report, The New Paradigm for Mankind. They are drawing people's focus into possibilities, into human potential. And if we can, look a little beyond, of course we have to deal with what's in front of us, but if we can look a little beyond what's immediately in front of us, and, there's that old phrase, are you going to focus on the urgent or the important? If we can focus on the bigger picture, the important, and remember who we are and how we've been empowered by God, and what our potential is, and what God's purposes are, and the intentions for which He created us, and move into those as opposed and focus on those as opposed to letting our entire focus be on this narrow field of vision of the things that are right in front of us now. And even alternative news can be overwhelming, cause us to lose sight of the big picture. And I have some humor here as a way to maybe lift our thoughts a little bit, from Neil Keenan. Now, this experience is, I think it was probably real. And it's about an assassination attempt on Neil Keenan. And yes, it was threatening, but it's also kind of humorous because he was injected by some kind of remote control flying robotic insect, likely infected Neil the evening of Tuesday, March 18th. And Neil was aided by Dr. Group, who is the doctor who has designed some of the new InfoWars formulations, Survival Shield, Fluoride Shield, and all those. So that's kind of a fun tie-in. Certainly Alex Jones doesn't talk about Neil Keenan. And Neil is, one of the guys that's further out. I won't say he's on the fringe, but he's not right in the center of what we all believe. Although recently, some of the things that he has saying have begun to make more sense to me. But so this is kind of fun, and they did. Another bug came on the 22nd. Neil was stung on the 18th. Another bug came on the 22nd, and Neil and his friend were able to knock down and destroy this bug. And they have a photograph of it here, which it's just kind of fun. And I'm including this as a kind of a, not exactly humorous, but just as a kind of encouragement to be lighthearted. And the closing paragraph here is, well, actually I'll read the closing 2 paragraphs. Neil is fine. We have established protocols to defend against these new types of attacks. The end is near. Their efforts have become desperate, but they fail time after time. Not just because we are more clever, which we may or may not be, and certainly not because we have equal technology, which we do not, but because this is our time now. Our opportunities, our survival, our moves and accomplishments seem to have become blessed by God, nature, and fate. While we continue to take every precaution that is reasonable and available, our real strength lies in our being right, which is our might. God bless Dr. Group and all who support our efforts. We will prevail. If we can see this time that we are in as an opportunity for adventure, as opposed to a grind, something that we have to grind through, I think that will also help to lift our spirits. So that's kind of the philosophical perspective for the day. And now I will just try to quickly move through some news. Anti-gun California State Senator Leland arrested for gun trafficking. Well, very interesting article here. A California state senator who advocated gun control legislation asked for campaign donations in exchange for introducing an undercover FBI agent to an arms trafficker and told him how to get shoulder-fired automatic weapons and missiles from a Muslim separatist group in the Philippines. So this is encapsulated. This is the story of gun control. Good people can't get them, and criminals can. And as criminals do, the guys who are making the anti-gun laws are profiting. It's as simple as that. From Blacklisted News, IRS slams Bitcoin with retroactive tax rules. Is gold next? Activist Post has this article, California, a geoengineered dust bowl. And living in California, I can say that we have had quite a bit of rain in the last couple days and much more in the forecast. Hopefully that will come through. I have a friend who asked that we and all of his friends pray every morning that it rains until the reservoirs are filled up in California. Well, my response was, people who are manipulating water and who are profiting from scarcity will just empty out the reservoirs. I think even in the movie from the 80s, I think it might have even been from the 70s, Chinatown, it's a tremendous classic. The whole idea is water issues in, I think it was maybe the 40s, and how wealthy people were creating scarcity of water so that they could profit. And I believe they were, if memory serves, they were actually emptying reservoirs out into the ocean at night. And so this is one part of it. They're geoengineering it, but they're also creating this false scarcity, which is just as damaging as drought. I mean, not completely, because of course when there's rain, at least the indigenous plants get water. But for farming, it has the same effect when they create artificial scarcity. And kind of a companion article from David Icke, the Agenda 21 water police are making their move to enslave America. And again, it's not just about what falls out of the sky. It's how supply is manipulated and artificial scarcity is imposed. And while we're on the subject of the environment, I want to recommend some videos from InfoWars. If you don't listen to Alex's daily radio program, you might find this Greg Palast interview interesting. They're talking about 25 years later, Exxon, Valdez, and Deepwater Horizon accidents. It was known before these accidents that this technology had flaws and could fail, and some of these huge spills could have been prevented. And they're playing Russian roulette. These oil companies and some of these big corporations, and of course the people who are above them, are playing Russian roulette with our lives and really the life of planet Earth. Now I have a little bit of Ukraine news. Swiss decide against Russian sanctions. This is from Blacklisted News. So they have a balance on this. This is a German article, and unfortunately it's in German. But I saw this tweeted, and it's Helmut Schmidt thinks that it's a bad idea to leave Russia out of the G8. And I certainly agree with that. I think it's a bad idea. From Washington's blog, American constitutional history professor, Crimea's secession from Ukraine is valid and mirrors America's path to becoming an independent nation. So this is just a little bit more background on what's happening there, and a little more affirmation that the EU and America are probably not in the role of the good guy in this matter. From Yahoo News, Obama meets Pope to discuss inequality. And I'm including that because I've heard some interesting things about the Pope recently. From Gallup Politics, Americans see Pope in favorable light. Francis essentially matches John Paul II's soaring popularity at the end of his tenure. Okay, so Americans see Pope in favorable light. Well, that's nice, but they see Francis. And this came to my attention the other day. Is Francis truly the Pope? And Kevin Annett, this is the website XPolitics, and Kevin Annett says that there's evidence that Ratzinger is acting Pope, and quote, Pope, close quote, Francis is PR front. Pope and cardinals are a satanic coven. And that sounds dramatic, and maybe that's somewhat overstated, but certainly there are stories that I happen to believe from MKUltra mind control slaves that they were baptized in blood in basements of Catholic churches, and similar ceremonies have been done. People who say that they've come out of the Illuminati were forced to participate in rituals in the basement at the Vatican. And as I mentioned yesterday, Rome is one of the three cities. London, finances; Rome, spirituality, and, the souls. Rome controls the souls. And Washington, the military arm, controls the bodies. So that's certainly a valid way of seeing these cities, and I think of seeing Rome. So this is interesting information. From RT, Henry Kissinger's legacy of war crimes exposed by secret Yale invitation. And Henry Kissinger was secretly invited to Yale. And Abby Martin says that this invitation has shined a new light into the former Secretary of State's long list of criminality by helping facilitate U.S. war crimes in Southeast Asia, South America, and the Middle East, which resulted in the deaths of millions of civilians. From Zero Hedge, Walmart admits profits depend heavily on corporate welfare. It appears that Walmart has admitted the potentially severe adverse impact of a reduction in food stamp payments could have on its bottom line. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who reads this site, as I have written about this many, many times, most notably in the very popular post McDonald's Math, "You Can't Survive Working for Us." And I have this close to the end this morning because I hope people will remember this as we make decisions about where to shop and vote with our dollars. I'm hoping that people will decide to avoid McDonald's and not bestow dollars on McDonald's, Walmart, corporations who are taking advantage of the system in this manner. And some good news for today. Organic Connections has published this article. A GMO scientist becomes a GMO skeptic. Belinda Martineau, PhD, was a genetic engineer who helped develop the world's first commercially available genetically engineered whole food, the Flavor Saver tomato. But during the development of that tomato, she says she was transformed from a devout believer in the promise of agricultural biotechnology into a skeptic, wary of its uncertainties. Wise lady, and it might be a good idea to pray for her protection, and that she has help in exposing some of these issues. And finally, from the 10th Amendment Center, Tennessee Senate Committee passes bill to ban cell phone tracking 6-0. A Tennessee State Senate bill that would ban law enforcement from obtaining cell phone location tracking information without a warrant has passed an important committee hurdle. So, of course, now that just means it's out of committee, and at some point the full Senate will be voting on it. And then, of course, it will also have to be approved by the House and signed into law by the governor. So it has a little way to go, but it's great that states are beginning to understand issues with the federal government and beginning to understand nullification and how to resist. Thank you for tuning in for today's 99th Monkey Liberty News. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take care, and insist on liberty by enforcing the Bill of Rights in your little corner of the world.